Okay. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Tim Campbell, the Aquatic Invasive Species Outreach Specialist for the University of Wisconsin Sea Grant Institute. If you don't already know me, I'm actually not based in Wisconsin. I'm based in Virginia. I'll have some new projects coming up, which might make a little bit more sense for my location, but hopefully we'll be able to announce those here in the next month. But I still like to, and still get to, do a lot of Wisconsin-focused stuff, including helping Jeannie out with LMPN and doing any other AIS stuff around Wisconsin that I can. So happy to just talk a little bit today about community-based social marketing and how we've been able to use this approach to help inform some of our prevention activities. And I think, like you've heard me say, I have about 15 minutes of content, not even, just to give you a quick primer on what community-based social marketing is, and then why it's important and how we've been able to use it in some of our efforts. So hopefully when you're done here, what we do in Wisconsin might make a little bit more sense. And then you might also have some ideas on how you can apply this in your own work to try to solve some invasive species problems that you might know of or that might be specific to your area. So I am going to share my screen here really quickly. No, I'm not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
That's my fault. I forgot.
Yeah.
I don't want to share. There you go. You should be able to do it now.
Okay. And okay. So thanks again for tuning in. Just a quick primer on community-based social marketing, and the kind of joking subtitle for this talk is the training Jeannie could also be giving, since she actually took the course. So I have not taken the Doug McKenzie Moore CBSM course. I've done some reading and worked with a lot of people that are experts and have a lot of experience with this, which has made me pretty familiar with it. But I think between Jeannie and myself, have a lot of experience with this. And we also have some other folks on the call too with a lot of experience with community-based social marketing. So hopefully that leads to a good discussion here in a little bit. So for me, when I think about community-based social marketing, kind of the heart of why it's important for me is that, is that knowledge is necessary but insufficient for behavior change. And so we all know a lot, and people know a lot, and we know that we should be doing things, but oftentimes that knowledge of whatever activities or actions might be desirable still doesn't mean that we do it. And I think this is important for us because while we all might be, doing some sort of aquatic invasive species work, or more generally lake-related work, whatever we're doing, a lot of what we do is behavior change. And for us, whether we're trying to work with boaters to get them to remove plants, animals, and mud from their watercraft and drain water, or we're working with water gardeners so that way they're planting the right plants and properly disposing of anything when they need to. This is a behavior change problem. It's not always a knowledge problem. And how can we do, or what can we do to get people to take these actions when they oftentimes know what the right thing to do is, or they really want to do the right thing? And so kind of to build off that idea of knowledge is necessary but insufficient for behavior change, kind of a classic model for science communication is the deficit model. So kind of maybe think of, I don't know, your brain or knowledge as this cup, and the level of water or liquid in your cup might indicate the knowledge and the behavior you're going to take based off of that. So maybe an easy example for people is recycling and trash disposal. And so we might think if we want people to recycle, we need to tell them that they should recycle and tell them why it's important. And so if people have a certain level of knowledge, they're like, hey, I don't want to litter, all this garbage all over is bad for the environment, so I'm just going to make sure I throw everything away. And that's a certain level of knowledge. But maybe if we just tell people the importance of recycling, and that if you sort out your plastics and glass, there are other environmental benefits from that. So kind of we fill their cup up, and maybe they start sorting and recycling in addition to throwing everything away. So, we added a whole bunch of amazing facts, blew their minds, and it's a great success. That's how a lot of people think about behavior change and science communication, that if everyone just knew what we knew, they would do what we do. But that's not exactly how it works. People need to know a lot of what we know, but even when they know that, they're still not always taking the right behaviors. And there are just a ton of examples that I'm going to bore you with that just support this idea that knowledge just isn't enough. Like, we all know that we should exercise more, but for whatever reason, just a notification from Fitbit or your phone or whatever, just that you haven't quite met your steps goal yet, that's enough to get people to walk a little bit more. My wife, maybe it's because of the pandemic, but we're like just walking laps in the house trying to get our steps goal, and it's because of this arbitrary goal that our watches have made for us, So even though we know we should be exercising, our watches are helping us out. Or we all know we should be saving for retirement. But if researchers have found out that a lot of people still aren't saving for retirement, but if you just switch the default so that people are automatically opted in to a retirement savings plan versus making people choose to be or choose to start saving, more people save for retirement. So that's helped people achieve those goals. Like, one of my least favorite prompts is when you go to a restaurant and you're looking forward to whatever you're looking forward to, and then they have the calories on the menu, and you're like, well, that has my entire day's worth of calories in it, so I will not be ordering that. But that's a good prompt with information to help guide your behavior there. We all know we should be spending less time on our phones, but for whatever, well, there's a lot of reasons that we know of that keep us on our phones. We still can't put them down. So there's apps that restrict social media usage, or can help you put your phone down to do other things. Then lastly, kind of a social norming one that I found yesterday was, college students know that they should not drink until they pass out, but they still have to do messaging campaigns about party fouls to keep them from drinking to passing out. So the 9 out of 10 Michigan State students disapprove of drinking to the point of passing out. Of course, this would have to happen at Michigan State. So anyway, tons of examples. Behavioral science or economics, super interesting stuff. Happy to nerd out about it later, but lots of examples where knowledge just isn't enough. And again, how does this apply to what we do? We generally know that people in Wisconsin and voters in Wisconsin are knowledgeable about our laws. They're aware of invasive species issues and our laws and are generally familiar with them. So, our voters have a good amount of knowledge. They can correctly identify which behaviors are legal and illegal for them, except for some of the more complicated ones. But while they generally know AIS regulations, and most people usually or always perform these actions, there's still a gap to 100% compliance. Clean Boats, Clean Waters suggests that maybe 90% of people are usually or always taking these actions, and that's self-reported data, so it's probably a little rosier than the actual real number is. And then we have people entering the boating population, so we have new boaters every year, and we have people leaving the boating population that knew how to take these steps. So there's always going to be new people that we need to reach, and knowledge alone just won't get us there. So that's where community-based social marketing comes in. It's a data-driven approach to community-level behavior change that reduces barriers to action while enhancing motivation through social influences. And so there's a few steps. It's a pretty standard process that can be applied to a lot of environmental behaviors. And so Minnesota has done a really good job of this. They've worked with a social science contractor to kind of walk them through a handful of different invasive species behaviors to go through this process. But the first thing you want to do is select behaviors to promote. So it might be, from it, I can work off the Minnesota example fairly well because I know that. So select behaviors to promote. They want people to throw their trash, or sorry, they want people to throw their unused bait away or not release it into the environment. So they can identify barriers to that and benefits, like people understand that by not releasing your bait that you're not contributing to the spread of invasive species, but a barrier might be that there's no place at the boat landing to dispose of your bait. And so you can develop strategies around that. Maybe you can find somebody to adopt a trash can, so that way you can place a trash can there and regularly remove it, so that way unused bait isn't being really smelly, or people use trash cans for all of their trash too. So that can be a maintenance issue. But there's a lot of strategies you can develop to help people dispose of their bait. You can pilot test those strategies. Maybe you have 2 or 3 different ones that you could try around a lake to see if some people respond better to others. And as you're doing these pilot tests, you can be using evaluation to just understand what's working, how you can improve, and continue to reiterate until you, continue to iterate until you have kind of your ideal solution. And so for develops, you can't see me pointing, I'm sorry. Developing strategies and pilot test strategies, there's a handful of different kind of standard things that we can do to help people take these actions. So, commitments are useful. We've had and I have examples for each one that I'll just talk through quickly, like a Stop Aquatic Hitchhikers Pledge, a project the Great Lakes Sea Grant Network worked on 6 or 7 years ago now, was a fishing tournament project, and we had fishing tournament anglers sign a Stop Aquatic Hitchhikers Pledge, just committing to taking these actions. And just the simple act of committing, or signing your name and taking or making a commitment or taking a pledge to take action causes people to take those actions. There's also social norming. So, an example just might be like seeing other boaters take action. So, while we in Wisconsin require people to take action before they leave the boat landing and before they get on a public roadway, just so I think that helps make our law more enforceable. It's pretty clear. But if we tell people to take action at the boat landing, then there's that kind of reinforcing social norm of seeing other people take this action, which reinforces the idea that this is an important thing to do. Other people do it. I should do it too. We can also use prompts or reminders to take action. Our Stop Aquatic Hitchhiker signage, especially the signage that people might see as they're pulling out of the water, or a stencil or something like that on a roadway to kind of indicate space to take these actions, could serve as a prompt. The towels and ice packs we use for the landing blitz and the drain campaign can also serve as prompts, just to remind people that, hey, these are desirable behaviors and we should be taking them. And a really good prompt is one that's you might see kind of right at the point that you want people to take action. We'd also use communication strategies. So all those newsletter articles that people might be writing for their local lake associations or kind of a county newsletter can be really useful to help give the right information when the gap in a behavior might actually be due to lack of information. Or you can also incorporate some of these other things in there too. You can use social norming language, or talk about how easy some of these actions are. So there's you can wrap different strategies into communication. We can also use incentives. So there's good incentives like you might be rewarded for something, like here's a 50% off coupon for your first drink or whatever at the bar down the road, or a free ice cream for taking action, right? But we also have fines for non-compliance, which is another type of incentive to get people to take action. And then there's also convenience. So we want to make these behaviors really easy. So we can add cleaning stations or space to take action, because some people might say that I don't have the tools I need. I don't have a grabber to get the plant from underneath my boat, or the launch is too busy. I feel like I'm in the way to take action. So, we can make these things a little bit easier for people, which might help increase people taking these behaviors or doing these behaviors. And then for the evaluation component, we have a lot of examples of evaluation of generally our aquatic invasive species outreach program through like our boater angler survey. It was done in 2009, 2014, and 2018. So we've used that data to inform some of our efforts. Brett Shaw has been really active in helping us evaluate some of these things. He's helped with the drain campaign. He's helped with the bait shop initiative. So all of these community-based social marketing approaches that we've used have had some level of evaluation that has helped us either initially form the idea or kind of evaluate so we can improve it or show that it was working. So here's just a few examples of ways that we've applied this here in Wisconsin. So in the top left, we have the towels with the landing blitz and the drain campaign. Both are good prompts and reminders for people to take action. And regarding the drain campaign, some of our messaging in the bottom left, just fish on ice, is a behavior that we encourage people to take, because if we're showing people this desirable behavior, like this is what you want, or this is what we want you to be doing and how people transport fish, they should be less likely to be transporting it in water in their live wells, which we don't want them to do. Here's a picture of a removal station minus the tools. They haven't got to that point yet. But these removal stations, create space to take the action and also make the action more convenient because it gives people the tools they need to take action. The same with the wader cleaning stations and on the right-hand side of the screen, that a lot of wading anglers might not have brushes to clean off their boots. So we put the brushes at the access point to make it really easy. And then in the bottom right is just one part of the bait shop initiative. And it's kind of a commitment, but also just an acknowledgement of good work of our bait shop partners, is this certificate, acknowledging that they have taken action and are part of this partnership. And that can help bait shops continue to take these actions in the future. So you're super stoked about community-based social marketing now. This is all you want to do. How are you going to do it? So you can use grant funds to help implement community-based social marketing pilot projects. I think this is something that both Jeannie and I have kind of kicked around in some discussions, and I think the Surface Water Grants Program would be open to some of these, either through the $4,000 education grants or the $24,000 supplemental prevention grants. Obviously, work with the DNR grants people to kind of scope out those projects and make sure that they work for the program. But I think those could be some sets of funding if you can identify an issue that you want to try this approach with. And then, just more generally, I'm volunteering Jeannie, myself, and then I think a lot of people at Extension or Wisconsin Sea Grant have some of this expertise or some of this knowledge. And so we'd be happy just to talk with you a little bit, kind of see what behavior or issue you're thinking about, and how we might be able to help you kind of apply some of these approaches. And then if you're interested in reading more or attending a workshop, there's a couple of different ways we could help you out with that. Like, we could definitely point you in the direction of some reading. That's pretty easy to do if a community-based social marketing workshop, something more intensive is of interest to people. That's something that we can maybe try to scope out. That would require some funding, but we could work with DNR, Extension, Sea Grant to try to get the necessary people here to do something like that. So that's my really quick intro to community-based social marketing. This is definitely not everything you need to know about it. There's so much more you can learn, but hopefully if you're unfamiliar with it, this has familiarized you with it and made you really interested. If you've heard about it before, hopefully you have some really good ideas we can talk about for the rest of our time.
Thanks, Tim. You had some good twists on those that I hadn't seen before, like your cup.
Yeah.
That was cool. So do we have any questions floating around out there? You can either type them into the chat if you can't be heard or don't have a mic, or just go ahead and unmute. Anybody have any projects where they think putting a CBSM spin on it might improve things or help things move things along? I'm not seeing any. Oh, Amanda turned her voice.
Yeah, I guess I'll just chime in. The pathways work that I'm doing we're definitely taking, and Tim is a big part of that. We're taking a CBSM approach, and specifically we're focused on DAC service providers. And some of the things that we're doing are e-learning modules to give them the training as well as the tools that they need, like Tim had mentioned, plant grabbers, what have you, bleach sprayers, etc. And then the thing that I'm most excited about, and I think was like where you can get really creative, is the incentive component, and hopefully just really making, I guess, trying to normalize prevention into unique industries like DAC service providers. So, yeah.
I'm curious, have any of you tried doing any, we have the bait shop initiative where you go out to the bait shops, and that's actually one of our other small bites that we'll go into in more detail. But you're going in and you're using the bait shop itself as the messenger. Has anybody tried doing any outreach to marinas and folks to get people information through the person selling them their boat or their trailer? Or would consider that?
Actually, last year, because we couldn't hand out some towels and, and all that stuff, my son had bought a new boat. And when we were picking it up, I talked to the salesman and was talking about the Clean Boats towels and stuff like that. And that because they do when you buy a boat, they are not very good at telling you regulations and rules and all that kind of stuff in some of the areas around here. And so I kind of did my AIS kind of spiel, and I ended up bringing them a handful of towels for them to hand out to new boat owners for when people did buy their boats.
That's a nice twist on using the towels.
Yeah, that's really cool, Amy. It'd be cool to just like take that a step farther and like formalize it into like a welcome package for your boat or something.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
And
I did tell
the sell per year in this state to kind of wrap our heads around what putting something like that together might cost.
Well, especially last year, boats were a huge. It was hard to even buy a new boat. Yeah. Boats was a high sale item last year.
Yeah, like campers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is kind of similar topic, a little tangential, but one year I was at the Muskie Expo in Wausau, and I just happened to have like a whole bunch of Stop Aquatic hitchhiker outreach gear in my car, and I have a friend who has a bait shop that he had a booth at the expo, and I was like, hey, would you want to like provide people some like a publication and a towel? I think I had towels or keychains or something like with each sale, and kind of like just give us a plug. And they did, and it was really cool, and they were excited to be able to kind of treat their customers with this little goodie bag.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. Another nice twist. Marissa.
Yeah, I'll just add that we have a kind of similar thing down here on Rock Lake, where the Rock Lake Improvement Association each year has us put together a list for them of the riparian land parcels that changed ownership. And then they put together like a homeowner's packet for them that includes like the lake recreation rules, boating ordinances, local zoning laws, and it's got AIS prevention materials in there. And I think a contact sheet of people like us at the county and the county zoning board and the sheriff and that sort of thing. And, they get some materials for us, but then the association is also, putting that together with volunteer time. So maybe that's something that could be utilized for, like boat, if there's a local, boat shop like we were talking about, that might be something that improvement associations and things might be willing to volunteer to put together for them.
Mm-hmm. And Kathy said in chat, they just have one boat seller in the county, and she likes this idea we're bouncing around too. And it interests me also because, you know, we've been doing Drain Campaign and the Landing Blitz for, I don't know, Landing Blitz is older, isn't it, Tim? Because the Drain Campaign was built off of one of those voter surveys.
Yeah, well, I remember the Landing Blitz existed when I started, but I do remember helping, or like a AIS partner meeting, probably in like 2012 or 2013,
Mhm.
that we discussed the Drain Campaign.
Yeah, it was one of my first meetings where we went over the survey, and then they talked about getting into the Drain Campaign, and we we were doing distribution at Stevens Point. And boy, there was a lot of boxes of ice packs going out of a truck. But you know, our funding for that comes out of the Great Lakes monies, and it's not going to be in the grant for the next cycle, and maybe not even the next. And DNR is kind of questioning, well, you've been doing it for, you know, like 8 or 9 years for one and 10 and 11 for the other. So maybe doing something through the sellers might be a new twist on it, that we could do some background research now on putting together something, use what we have available, you know, for a while, but then maybe actually put that in as a twist on an old idea to get some GLRI funding to put together these types of get it with your boat information. So, and see if that would be a good idea. We could do a little CBSM research first. So thanks for throwing those ideas around. And if anyone else has any other ideas about twists we put on the Drain Campaign and Landing Blitz in the future, I'm certainly interested, because the towels for next year are about $40,000 I'm spending on towels for 2022 out of a $45,000 budget that we're hoping to spread out a lot further. So that's part of the problem too. But
I have a question about the towels and stuff.
Mhm.
Like, what if, I mean, I know that when you order your towels and ice packs and stuff like that, I know that you buy it in bulk and whatever, but is there, and because like I know if I have a lake that wants to order a big sign with the tools and stuff, I know you know that we can purchase that. But is there a way, like, let's say a county or a municipality or somebody, or let's say I got in touch with a boat dealer and they were willing to buy their own towels or ice packs. Is there a place, do we have anything set up where like we can go and purchase that stuff?
I wonder, as you're talking, we've worked several years. We've had some different vendors for the towels over the years. And he certainly knows what the graphics are, and he knows the process like the back of his hand. And I wonder if we could work with him to just be a vendor for these. If somebody submits an order and he just is the person that goes ahead and gets it through, he gets them the price, we can't quote the price because they're subject to change. In fact, we had a price increase this year because from the time I got the quote until it got through purchasing at DNR, too much time went by and the price went up. It was just a teeny bit, but still. So I don't know, I could always talk to this particular vendor and see if he'd be interested in working, directly with some groups. I don't know what size orders there would have to be in order for that to be worth his time. Heck, if you're going through a big boat company, it could be really a significant order, if one of the big boat companies wanted to do something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible because like with you talking to him, sitting here thinking, yeah, they probably want like a minimum amount, made and stuff like that. So I can see that. I just was wondering if there was if maybe there were, and I don't know how many people on their own would want to go. Yeah, I don't know. It was just something throwing out there because I know that we can purchase these signs and, maybe at some point go, saying, hey, this is something that you can do for your patrons or something. I don't know. It's just throwing out there.
Yeah. So in my experience with that, like with the signs, it makes, especially the big 4x4 signs, it makes sense because it's, $175 or $200. And the demand for them hasn't been that high, so it's been easy enough to manage some of those. I'm going to sound lazy, probably because I am, but the logistics of allowing people to order their own towels or is just tough. For like the university's not necessarily set up to take money. And so I think there are I know, say Wisconsin Sea Grant has a store that people can buy some of or more expensive print products from. So we could theoretically set something up with a special account that's revenue generating that, if we had like a one-time infusion of funding, we could buy a whole bunch of towels, keep them in a warehouse or in our storage, and then people could pay us for them and we'd ship them out, and then we could just replenish the towels. That just takes a bunch of time. And then when I looked at doing it with extension or DNR, the DNR doesn't really have a way to collect that money. And extension, I don't think has the bandwidth to do that. So it's weird to say, it's just been easier for us to give out towels. If Jeannie could set something up that made it so small orders could be gone directly through the vendor, you'd be probably paying twice as much for towels. Like if you were to order 100 towels, they would probably be like $2.50 each or something like that. But maybe some people would still find that worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe something with Aaron, just add it to the Clean Boats, Clean Waters stuff they already sell.
Yep. So
about that. Matt had a question. I want to get that in here before we go wrap up, about an idea to do waiting angler decon kits with a bag, brush, spray bottle, pamphlets, order prompt bags. Oh, bags with clips. You mean like the towels have the clips, I think.
The idea would be that something that's easy for them to take out or clip on their gear, so then when they're walking around, it has a message on it. Maybe it's camo, but something that's simple as a reminder to clean their gear with the tools that they need. I've been talking with some angling shops about that, and we do get out the group brushes, obviously, but it'd be cool to have a whole kind of kit built that I could see spending some money on that. But if we had cool bags to contain it all and kind of remind people to do it.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with using some of those camo towels, and I might be able to get some more with the money I have left. But like Kathy mentioned, in Richland, they've got a lot of trout anglers. And Kathy, they're like our drain campaign or landing blitz towels, but they're camo color, the brown and white camo. So I'd be happy to get you a couple of bags of those, especially since we haven't had that type of outreach much in that county yet, as far as I know. And you just shoot me an email and I can get those sent out to you right away, and they'll have them for just to do randomly during the summer, to link them to one of the campaigns. I don't have tons and tons. We primarily use them for the waterfowl hunters, but we can actually get to more trout anglers probably than waterfowl hunters, because they're out for months and months versus a few weeks every year. But so good ideas, you guys. Thank you for throwing all those out there. Doug, did you have something to say? I see you just unmuted.
I'm also there off of video. Good morning, everybody.
With your red swamp background.
Yeah, red swamp crayfish in the background attacking me. So hi, I'm Doug Jensen. I'm with Minnesota Sea Grant. Nice to be a fly on the wall and catching up with you guys. see what's going on. Say one strategy, Jeannie and Tim, that we've used here in Minnesota to get a buy-in, literally buy-in from lake associations, is in a couple of occasions where I've had enough funding, I have just provided like key floats to lake associations and given them a box of those with their logo on it. So we collect up their logo, we create a version for them, and then we give it to them. Another strategy that I've done is that I've said, I've got enough money for 400 key floats. If you match that with another 400 key floats from your budget, we can provide you 800 key floats. And we've had good luck with lake associations then purchasing their own key floats in the future after that, because they realize the value of that particular product and want to continue distributing them. And then it doesn't become a burden for Sea Grant to continue to do that. But it does take a considerable amount of bandwidth on the front end to make that happen, to collect up those orders.
Hey, can you like kind of an email to me with a picture of what kind you're using?
It's the red on white plastic key floats.
The ones that like open up that you can.
Oh, like we were just talking about
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys have had them before.
Yeah.
How many lake organizations, after you've helped them get that initial like set of product, how many have just picked it up and ordered it on their own?
2 or 3.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and those are the ones that we've reached out to. So
Are you, Tim, what was that company's name? Just wanted to see if it was the same company. Where's John's email? Imprint Items?
yep, it's Imprint. That's what we've gone with.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Just getting quotes.
Kevin's
look at
got
there.
it.
Yeah, there you go. You got it, Kevin.
Perfect.
A ton of those, by the
Covered
way,
with
that I got from
logos.
Badger. I don't know, but if you need extra, I probably have too many. I don't really give them away that much in my area. I don't know. So if you ever need some of those back.
We're used primarily for the bait shop initiative. So yeah, if we could share, if you have way too many and you want to share them with some others, you know, go ahead and drop some off at the warehouse and ask John to put them back in stock, because we are down to about 500 right now.
I probably have a couple hundred. I don't know. I just don't. They're not really part of what I give out for some reason. Don't seem like they really actually work that well as floats. I mean, they kind of do, but some of them are busted and stuff. I wouldn't trust them. So those funny things. They look cool, but
I trust them more than the little foam ones.
yeah, right.
Yeah, the key floats and the koozies are probably the 2 most popular ones that we distribute here in the Duluth area. But you can also do the same sort of thing, Jeannie, with the towels,
Yeah,
and you can make your distribution go further.
yeah.
But again, it takes some bandwidth to collect up with those. Oh, and the other thing I was going to mention is that when you go to the vendor, then ask for 3 or 4 different bids based on quantities. So if you think it's going to be, you know, you're going to order 4,000 towels, ask them for 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000. So if you get a really big response, then you know what your pricing is.
Yeah,
And include
those I've
the
got
shipping.
down pretty good from doing that for a few years.
And do you have the lake organization send the vendor money directly, or does it go to the university?
For us, it comes to us.
Yeah. Okay.
They pay us.
Okay.
So we'd have to figure that out.
But it's a benefit because, and you can use that in terms of your accountability, because you can show what you're saving in terms of pricing.
Yep.
You're saving taxpayer money by asking those organizations to buy into it.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you
All
everyone
right, thanks.
for sharing ideas, and yeah, getting some with our Minnesota neighbors even. So we're a little, I think our small bites, we keep taking slightly bigger bites so far, but that's okay, because these are good opportunities to just throw around ideas, and they may end up becoming parts of future partnership meetings where we have more people at the table too. So I am going to go ahead and turn off the record after I say thank you, Tim, for giving us an update on citizen-based social marketing. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.